Now that the weather is heating up, a lot of us are thinking about getting back on our bikes. But if you're like me and your MOT expired in January, you need to get it back on the road, and first you got to get it MOT'd. So now, while it's still sunny enough to work on it without absolutely boiling, it's probably a good time to make sure your bike's in tip-top condition and get your MOT passed. So here is the checklist of all of the things that the MOT tester is going to be looking for and how to make sure they're all working. The first thing on the list is your bike's lights. These have to be all working, from your dipped beams at the front to your main beams to your side lights and your indicators. You'll also need to make sure that they are securely fitted, and that means no indicators hanging out of their housings or just hanging on by wires. You'll need to make sure that your rear lights work as well, and you'll also need to make sure that when it comes to your brake lights, those work and turn on with both when you're using your front brake and when you're using your rear brake as well. The next item is steering and suspension. They're going to be checking for both the condition of all of the components and that everything from the forks, handlebars, grips, mounts, head bearings, swing arms, shock absorbers, and damping effects are all secure and working properly. What that means is that you'll need to make sure that your front and rear shocks are in good condition, the stanchions aren't marked, your seals aren't leaking, and that your head bearings are in good condition as well. In my case, my rear shock is very dirty, but in functional condition, so I'm all good. Next on the list is the wheels and tires. Now, they're going to be checking their general condition. They're also going to be checking that the wheels and the tires are securely fitted to the bike, so the axle bolts and that the tires are nicely seated all the way around. They will also check the size and type of the tire that is suitable for the bike. They will also check for correct fitment, again, so nicely seated on the beads. They will also check for the tread depth. In my case, mine, as you can see right in the center there, is a little on the low side, so there's a chance that these will need to be replaced. And they're also going to check for the condition of the valve. This is something that wears down over time and slowly lets out air, and if it catastrophically fails, then it's enough to deflate your tire entirely, and that's a very bad thing. While you're here, this isn't technically part of the MOT, but it can be a good idea to make sure that your tires are up to the pressure that's recommended, using something like a little air compressor like this, or even just a hand pump if you've got one available. Either way, my front tire is meant to be at 33 psi, it's currently at 27, so I'm going to let it pump up so that it's a good pressure when I go to ride it to the test centre. The next item is the frame. Now, what they're checking for here is basically any cracking, damage, distortion, or rust, which is a very serious issue. But of course, on my bike, I don't exactly have any of those to show you, so generally speaking, make sure that your frame is in good working order and you're all good on this one. Next up is the brakes. Now, what they're going to be checking for here is their condition. So, there is a brake disc and brake pads, and that they're not entirely, paper thin. And they're also going to be checking for the efficiency and performance via a braking test. They will also check the brake controls to make sure that you have a brake lever and brake pedal and that they actually work. So before you go, it'd be a good idea to check the thickness of your brake disc and the thickness of your brake pad material. In my case, mine is a little bit crusty, but certainly fine. When it comes to the efficiency test, this is basically, can you stop the bike? And so if you have a test ride and you can bring it to a safe and controlled stop, then you're probably fairly good. Next on the list is your exhaust. They're making sure that it's both secure and complete, so if you don't have a rear can, for example, that could be a problem, and they're also checking that it's not too noisy. In my case, mine has a silencer plate, and so it is within the legal limits, and so that is plenty fine. They'll also check your fuel system for both leaks and the security of its components. What that means is that they're going to check that, say, the tank is nicely secured to the bike. They'll also have a look through the frame to check the fuel lines to make sure that there isn't any fuel leaking out of the tank and then onto a hot engine, which will inevitably catch fire. This is just a due diligence check, and if you're already working on your bike, it can be a good idea to lift the tank up just to have a look at those fuel lines, make sure it's all good, and then securely fasten it back down. The next one might sound a little weird, but they check if you have a seat and that it's securely fastened. This, again, seems a bit strange to me, but as long as you have a primary seat that is securely fastened to the bike, and any secondary seats, like pillion seats, are, again, securely fastened to the bike, you're all good there. They'll also check your wheel alignment. You can check this by looking square down at the back of the bike to make sure that your rear wheel is in check, and you can measure where the axle is on either side to make sure that's square. And you can also check the same at the front wheel just to make sure that they're not at significantly jaunty angles, and you should be good. You'll also need to make sure that your horn works, which in my case mine does. So we're all good there. And you'll need to check that your license plates are in good order and that any vehicle identification numbers like the VIN, plaque are in good condition as well. They'll also check your drivetrain and sprockets. In my case, mine is pretty crusty from being sat for a while. A good clean will aid that, although it is likely since last year I had an advisory for the chain that it'll probably need replacing, and so come this year it's likely that that's getting changed anyway. But they'll also check for the sprocket to make sure that the teeth are in good order. One thing that you can do is give your chain a good clean, so if it's in this sort of crusty state, then some brake cleaner or some chain cleaner and a good scrub will definitely help it out, and then lube the chain up as you normally would before you go on, hopefully, any ride. The throttle is also something that will be checked for to make sure that it operates normally, returns freely, and is in reasonable working condition. I'm sure you'll figure out if that one's broken first. And the same goes for the clutch lever. You'll need to make sure that it is in good condition, it's not so bent or damaged or shortened that it can't easily be used, but otherwise, as long as it's working, you should be all good. And last but certainly not least is the footrests. You need to make sure that these are securely fitted and present for any primary and secondary riders. In my case, mine are perfectly fine for functioning normally, and so these are all good to go as well. So that's a look at all of the things you need to know and to check over when it comes to getting your motorbike MOT'd. If you have any questions, do feel free to leave those in the comments down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, I'm sure when it comes time for my car to be MOT'd, I'll be making a video for that one too. So if you're interested in seeing that and plenty of other videos relating to bikes and cars, then feel free to hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, there are plenty of other videos already up on the channel that you can check out on the end cards, and that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.